Hello and welcome back.
Hello.
This is our fourth episode of How to Connect with Humans. And today it's called Identity is the Key to Connection with our very, very special, adorable guest, Janet A Rhynie. And we love you so much. And I think you're going to take it over and say a little bit about our absolutely beloved
Amazing
Janet.
unicorn guest. Yeah. See, I remember Janet, from the moment I met Janet, she always said, I'm a unicorn. So, yeah, that for me is always stuck in my head. But before we hand over to Janet, I just want to say a little bit of a background on Janet and what she's done in the past and what she's continuing to do now, because what she does is fantastic and we all love you. You're incredible. So Janet is a facilitator, trainer and coach. She has a passion to educate people to see through the illusion and fear and confusion. She's worked in the criminal justice system, and then 10 years ago she trained with Aaron Turner and the One Thought Institute, and then since then she's been bringing it into her work as probation officer and helping people through difficult sections in their life. Yeah, she's currently creating online programs to help people through difficult times. And yeah, I think what I love personally about Janet is the fact that she calls a spade, as we said in one of the Facebook posts, and it's always refreshing to hear that. It's refreshing to hear the passion that she has for it. And for me, I've had most of the big insights with Janet, and it's been stuff I needed to hear, but she's also created that space and loving, caring side. So on a personal level, I just want to thank you.
Thank you.
So welcome.
Before I go any further, I can see my Northwest family up there. Margaret and John. I love you.
Oh.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Oh.
But you want me to take up?
Yeah. Yes, over to you.
Well, first of all, I just want to say thank you both. Thank you to Wayne and Carolina, and just for having the opportunity to speak. Wayne and Carolina are just a beautiful pair, beautiful couple. And I had the honour of working with Wayne some years ago, and just to see Wayne transform was beautiful to see. And then some of the things that you did, I think when you took your first, was it a skydive, your plane jump?
No, it was my first ever solo flight, I think it was. Or first ever when I was training,
You wasn't jumping out of the plane. I knew it had something to do with the plane. But but that was just so wonderful to see. So thank you. Thank you. So in talking about identity being the key to connection, as Wayne has mentioned, I trained as a probation officer and still do go in and do contracts within probation. And what's been really interesting in the past 6-7 weeks since lockdown, there are guys that are coming out of prison who I've never met, and I have to establish some kind of connection with them just on the phone. And that can be 5 minutes, it can be 30 minutes. but these are some guys that I'm going to be supervising for a year. And so it's how to establish some kind of rapport, some kind of relationship when there's nothing, I was going to say, but voice and energy, because that's all that's available. So if for those who, I was going to say for those who don't know, just a really quick overview of how I came to the principles. So, as I said before, I trained as a probation officer, left in 2003 to set up my own business because I love training and facilitating. And that then started a journey of trying and learning different approaches. So NLP, emotional freedom technique, tapping, even balance theory, kinesiology, you name it, I've tried it and utilized it. I used to work in children's centres with parents in children's centres, so I had an opportunity to try every technique on everybody. Like, this will work, this will be amazing. And then in 2010, when I was on my Master Practitioner of NLP course with Jamie Smart, and he started talking about something, I'm like, this is not NLP, because I've been on NLP courses and there's something more going on here. So I went to his MD and I says, is he on a spiritual journey? Does he sound like he's a little bit fluid? What's going on? And he says, yeah, he is. He's been on one in the past couple of years. And I knew, how we talk about, I said about energy, about that connection. I could sense it. I could feel that there was something different. So a few months later, after you forget all of that and you get into the techniques of doing NLP, he brings along Aaron Turner. And I see Aaron. So we're all gelled as a group and we all belong. And this short man walks into the room. I'm like, who's it? But at that moment, as well as looking at him, I thought he had such a presence about him. Nobody knew who he was. And he had this presence. And I'm like, he looks as if he belongs. But I've never seen him before. And he then started to talk about the principles in a way. I'm like, oh my goodness, that's what I want. That's it. And fortunately enough for me, there was the first 3 principles conference happening in Dicken. So if anybody's been to the little centre that Dicken has, that's where the first conference was. And I heard Amy Chen Mills introduce a video of her dad, Roger Mills, working in Modelo. And it wasn't Roger speaking, it was the people that he'd worked with in Modelo. And as I'm listening to these people in these destitute communities, predominantly black communities, talking about how their lives have been transformed and how they're taking back over their community, what came to me was, this will change the world. And then the next thought was, I'm going to spend the rest of my life learning about this so I can teach it. And so in my arrogance, I goes on Aaron's course going, yeah, I'm going to learn this to teach other people because other people need it.
Then we all.
But the greatest transformation was in me. I had no idea. Because I thought I was, quite sorted. But I never realised how much insecurity, how much anxiety, how much doubt I had in myself. And it wasn't until the layers started to be stripped away that I saw, and I'm like, oh my goodness, this is... And I had a taste, I had a touch of what the true me was like. And so then in teaching and training the principles, I was very fortunate enough to take it back into criminal justice and to work with female offenders. And I loved it. And for the first 2.5 years, it was amazing. But then I started to feel stale. It felt as if I was just repeating and regurgitating what I'd learned from Aaron, the Pranskys, all of those guys. And And it was about 2013, 2014. I started to kind of step away and like, there's something not quite right. It doesn't feel right. If I'm supposed to be in the moment, it's supposed to feel fresh. It doesn't feel fresh. What's going on? And so I kind of stepped away for a bit, and then went to a training where Keith Blevins was talking about the single paradigm. And that, because you know how you like, let's get into this beautiful feeling, let's just sit down and I'm sitting there and I'm like, where's the feeling? There's no feeling. Dave, you remember that, because I was like, where's the feeling? And I had to go to Keith. I'm like, Keith, I know you know what you're talking about. Something's missing, the feeling's not there. And he sat down and explained how we're only ever feeling our thinking in the moment 100%. And I'm like, that can't be it. That's not just it. It's not because, yeah, that's it. And after that, I felt as if everything that I'd ever learned about the principles had fallen away because it didn't make sense anymore. I saw how much stuff I was making up. I saw how many stories I was telling myself and telling other people and falling into that. And so I was so grateful for that, because it felt like I had to start again. I had to see the principles fresh. And when I was teaching, it literally was in the moment, sharing what I saw in that moment, hoping that somebody would see something, have an insight so that they could understand. But it was so simple and so clear. You didn't need to have an insight because it was just sensible. But then as time went on, sharing it by the single paradigm, I felt I lost the spiritual nature of what Sid was pointing towards. And so once again, it was, I have to go back to zero. I have to go back to the nothingness and start from there. And I remember in one of the audios that Sid gave and was listening to, he always said that mind was the only principle. There was only ever one principle, it was mind. And so that's where my journey took me, looking more into what that formless nature was, what my true identity was. And that's when I started to experience, when I said earlier that I had that touch of what my true identity would be. 6-7 years later, it's like, oh my goodness, I can feel it. And not only can I feel it, I know it to be true. It was looking at the inside, looking at that which I knew to be true. When everything else falls away, when the Janet I believe to be true falls away, what's left? And it's that essence, it's that energy, it's that spiritual nature. And that's when you then start to build afresh and new. Who is Janet? What is Janet? Who could Janet be? And in having that experience, that knowing, enables me to have those connections with the service users that come out and want to slam the phone down on me, and me try not to get upset about it. That's another experience, that's a bit about my journey, a bit of how I'm here now. So right now I do a number of things. So I have a contract, so I still work within criminal justice. I still work on a one-to-one basis with male and female offenders. I'm also coach and facilitate as well, so I have coaching clients. Yes, and putting things online on a one-to-one basis, or putting programs online so more people can access funding.
Perfect. it's amazing because I love it when you turn around and say you can turn up as who you are and be whoever you want to be in the next moment, because that's how you first got me. Who is Wayne? You know, who is Wayne going to be tomorrow? Who can Wayne be? For me, that just blows my mind. I remember when you first mentioned that to me on one of our sessions once, and I remember coming off the call with you really unsure, really unsteady, and then getting really angry. And then I remember, I think, calling you and going, I'm not happy. I don't want to do the next call and all this. And I think I remember coming on the next call and going, I'm angry. I'm not enjoying it. Blah, blah, blah. And you didn't you were really caring about it. You weren't kind of, well, that's the way it is. It's, and I think at some points that's what I need. I think sometimes I need that kick up the arse to kind of go, right, snap out of it. And then the next minute I need that, but you know what? Let it go. Let it rest.
Yeah, in having understanding myself, not only the spiritual true nature of myself, but also the personality that I am at the moment. I laugh a lot and I use humour because I understand I use humour. And at one point, humour was a defence mechanism for me. When I'm really insecure, I'll laugh a lot. But then I realised that I utilise it anyway just to break the barriers. So I'm not insecure anymore. I'm just like, you know, I was working with somebody earlier today and he said something about, oh, you sound like you're a really, really nice person. Because I've met me, so you sound like a really nice person. You sound like a really gorgeous girl. I said, I am. Fabulous. So he stopped laughing. And I thought it's, you know, even though that's a joke, and I say that to some people, when I say I'm a unicorn, I'm like, I am freaking amazing. Absolutely phenomenal. And it's like, well, how could I not be? Because if I know and believe that we are God in human form, how can we not say that we're phenomenal and amazing? So yeah, I'm just the most amazing creature on earth. As you all are as well.
Wow.
but it's that there are times when I say the truth won't stay still. And this is what I'm saying, when I'm in the moment, when I'm speaking with a service user or I'm speaking with anybody, and whether it's an insight, whether it's wisdom, something just comes, bubbles up in the back. I'm like, a question. I'm like, no, I'm not going to ask that. No, I'm not going to ask that. And it's still there. It's like, okay, I'm going to ask it. Sorry if it offends you. I'm just going to say it now. And 9 times out of 10, it's like you said, it's what somebody wants to hear. Or they've been frightened of speaking about it anyway. And so I've enabled them to have an opportunity to talk about it. It's interesting because I was talking with Wayne and Carolina earlier, again, about identity, and I suppose in the light of George Floyd and the racist uprisings that have been happening around the world. And last week I couldn't really speak about anything because I was so upset, I was so hurt, and it also brought up a lot of memories that I've had from school. From like the age of 5, I was called a nigger and didn't know what that was, but then just having to deal with it. Throughout my teens, I was saying, we were talking about image and reflections of beauty. That wasn't me, because there wasn't anybody who was dark-skinned in a magazine or on TV, or if you did, they were comedies and black people being ridiculed in those ways. So for me, I said about having to find my own identity even before the spiritual, which was to actually recognise me for me. My parents, are so grateful to have the parents that I had, because they said I was beautiful, I could do anything. They were really, really positive parents. I'm very grateful for them. And even though I had that, I still wanted to belong. And we were raised in an area where we were one of a few black families on a big road. I was the only black child in our class because Mum didn't let me go out to play, so I used to have to study and read all the time. So I was the top sets, and I was the only black child in those sets. So there was nobody that looked like me. And so my exploration of my own identity started in my late 20s, because then it was trying to fit in the best that I could. And it wasn't until I joined probation the first time as an assistant, and we had some training looking at race equality, looking at how black females are perceived in society. It didn't break my heart, it angered me. I was so upset. And so as a result of that, I was determined to have to find out more about not only black British history, speak to my parents and what they went through, look at the contributions that black people have been through, and then to also recognise beauty comes in many different forms. And like he says, and to hold on to that for myself. So in coming across the principles, and also I've been in church as well, so I understood about God, I understood about the power of the Spirit, but it's very much how the church taught about God. When I came across the principles, it released that for me. It's like I knew that there was something more than what church taught. And the principles gave me a freedom to express, to experience that infinite intelligence. And so the more I rediscovered my true self, the more I was able to love and accept the outer self. So that now there is no separation. So when I'm saying I'm a unicorn, when I'm saying that I'm an amazing and I'm beautiful, I absolutely, truly believe and know that to be true. Because it's not just the outside and it's not just the inside, it's both. Depends upon what school of thought that you believe in, that, this is the body I chose to come down here to earth in as a black woman. And whatever that purpose is, it's to embrace that, because God doesn't make mistakes. And so it's to embrace this, what I am, who I am, and who I'm continually realising myself to be.
I remember at some point in our relationship, I said to Wayne, "Well, you need to go talk to somebody." And the person that came to mind was you, because I had a training weekend together, and you just clicked instantly. And I remember you telling me that Janet said, "Well, Wayne, because we are, Wayne's got cerebral palsy. Some people here may not know, and people maybe watching this later may not know." And Janet said something, and please correct me if that's what I heard, but Janet said, "God makes no mistakes." And then you said to me, "I realize I am not my disability. I am free from that. I can be whoever I want."
Yeah. And just as a little add-on to that, last week it went even further. After the call with Dave and Jen, I had another realisation because we were talking in the car afterwards, and it was around guilt and the guilt I had of having a disability and the fact that I don't have to carry that guilt anymore. And again, it's just, yeah, it's just one of those things that you hold on for so long to, and to let it go, you feel really uneasy and really, yeah. But I love what you said when we spoke last week, that you were like, I can't wait to see who you appear as next week. And in my mind, I was thinking, oh, I could come as Krusty the Clown or something. It did cross my mind to do that. It's that. And as we were talking before, the perception of everyone in the world, and as you said earlier, even, years afterwards, it's still happening.
I was a child. I say I was a child. I was under 10 when there were the first race riots or uprisings in Manchester, in Birmingham, in London, and again it was about inequality. It was about being treated with equity. It's not about having the same. It's about having the opportunities. And so for it to be happening 40 years on, and I was saying that if not for this understanding, if not for knowing my true identity, I could be very, very angry. And don't get me wrong, there are moments when I'm so hurt. I say I could kill people, but I'm frightened of jail. I couldn't do it. But there are times when I'm so upset and want to cry, and the word that comes to me is grace right now. If not for understanding and knowing our true identity, if not for knowing that we are all the same, if not for taking that breath and then another breath. And it's not even about trying to make the pain and the feeling go away. It's just being with it, being in the moment with it, and knowing it. I say it's not even knowing it will pass, it just does. So yes, it's and I do. Even when we started speaking about what we're going to talk about, for me, saying that identity was the key to connection, and it was thinking primarily about, as I said, about the work that I do in criminal justice, that even when you work face to face with somebody, just being present and in the moment, when you listen with nothing on your mind and you feel the person's anxiety in front of you, and all I do is be in that moment, so that after 20, 30, however long, they're just talking, they're saying things that, Janet, I've never said this to anybody before, and it's like, that's okay. Because it's that so many people that I come across haven't been listened to before, haven't had somebody who's present with them. And even more so now, when somebody comes out of prison and they have to call me and I'm asking them questions about what did you do and why you're in prison, and let's have a look at this and let's have a look at that. And I understand and appreciate that that can be one of the most difficult things, because they've never seen me. They don't know who I am. And all I have is my voice. And as I said, that presence. and my humour if it comes out. And that's what I've found so much in this moment, at this time, during COVID, in connecting with people. They're coming out of prison, they're frightened, they don't know. Some of them have had long sentences, they're coming out to lockdown, to have to stay somewhere where they don't know, they might not have benefits, they might have access to things. And the consistent relationship they have is with me, their probation officer, who they may not want to talk to, but I'm the one they can guarantee is going to call them every single week to check and make sure that they're okay, to have a conversation to find out how they're doing, to know that I'm there for them, and they can rely upon me. And that's what I believe in my heart. When I work, like I said, I was joking earlier, there's one person, he slams the phone down on me every single week because he can't deal with challenging. And I don't even challenge him, like, how are you? Why are you asking me how I am? It's something to ask because I'm really interested. And I think because he's so used to being in the criminal justice system, he just doesn't trust people. And every week he puts the phone down. I'm like, if this was not what I called what I'm supposed to do, you would never hear from me again, ever. And then I breathe. And then the following week, because I have to speak to him every single week, and it is that be in the moment, because my intention is to connect with this person. And then he slams the phone down again. Oh, gosh. This week, the first time in 7 weeks, he didn't put the phone down. And I was shocked. So shocked. I'm like, wow, we actually had a decent conversation. But throughout it all, I was the same. And I was saying to Carolina and Wayne before, if I turn up to these phone contacts with an expectation, oh, he's going to just slam the phone down on me, oh, I'm just not going to talk, oh, this is just going to last 5 minutes, we may never have had that conversation today. So yes, there are, like I said, in my own exploration of the principles, in my own going away from and coming back to and trying to find the truth for myself. Identity, our true identity, our spiritual identity is so key, and the foundation to our ego, our self-image, who we create ourselves to be.
Wow.
We know that when these silences come around, usually something very powerful is happening. It's not that we just run out of things to say. I'm curious about how you feel at the moment, and I'm absolutely, like, I'm so thankful that we're having this call with you at this time, because when we asked you nothing had happened, and when when you decided about the name of the episode, nothing had happened either. So apart from us being on the pandemic, but and we're talking about this, and you were saying also like like this sort of brought us also to the awareness of how many Black people are missing from the scene or are not so present still. I mean, I was born in 1968, I think, if I'm right. That's when Martin Luther King was killed, on on trying to get more rights for Black people. So this is 51 years ago, nearly 52. So and you were saying like how like some Black people still don't feel comfortable having to be with white people or having to talk, like they wouldn't sort of mix up, that they still feel threatened, if that's what I heard. But I'm curious to see like what is it that that you were saying and you felt.
Well, I suppose as we know, our thinking goes up and down. Like I said, I can't do jail time. But I have a very vivid imagination of how I could slaughter a few hundred people. Trust me. And I know exactly who I would as well. You see how I'm kind of playing that over in my head. So, but I suppose on a serious tip, it is, I remember my dad telling me how he used to get chased down the road by mods and skinheads just to get home. My mum moving from different jobs, just being let go from job to job with no explanation. And so with this happening in America, like I said, it stirred up so many different memories for me, so much that I had suppressed. I hadn't even realised how much I had suppressed because, I was raised when my mum and my parents always said to me, Janet, you have to work twice as hard as any white person. That was normal for me. And so I was studious. I wasn't allowed to go out to play. I did go to university. I did work really hard because that's what I was told all of the time. And even within the public sector, with the equalities legislation, used to have the race equality, sex equality, all of those different legislation that came out in the 70s, and public sector organisations were to adhere to that. Even in working in probation and being passed over for promotion, sometimes it was really interesting. And then there was one year that had a race thematic inspection in the organisation and realised there weren't as many Black managers on the front line, and so they had this whole cohort where all of the cohort of managers were Black, and we're like, dude, seriously, are you making it that blatant? And it's not to say that we couldn't do the work. It's just that, it's like some people feel guilty. It's like the organisation had been caught out. They've been recognised that they were not working with equity. And so 7 Black managers got promoted in one fell swoop. And I remember going to South Africa when there was the affirmative action, positive action going on in South Africa. My friend was an air steward. We went to stay with him, so it was myself and another Black woman went to stay with him. We got off the plane, and what was so stark to us was that all of the serving staff were Black. Everybody was Black. And again, it was just that kind of feeling of anger, the feeling of injustice. That's what it was. And listening to some of the white friends saying how they felt angry that their jobs were being taken away from them and being given to Black people, I'm like, dude, you need to kind of take a moment and have a look at what's been happening historically and why we're at the point we are right now. And yet, before slavery. I remember going to Turkey years ago. I must have been in my 20s. And we went to this very small village to have a Turkish bath. And in the middle of this square was a black Madonna and child. And it was beautiful. It was just there in the middle of the square. And it's not that it was revered, but it was about that respect, that recognition. It was like slavery hasn't been around forever. There was a time when the Moors in Scotland, that there have been black warriors, that black people have been revered. And so how do I feel now? Like I said, there are moments of anger, moments of upset. Because also I see it's the institutional racism that's in the fabric of society. And then there are moments when the love that I have for everybody, there are moments when I know in innocence there are some people acting in ways that they don't even understand why they're doing it. Like I said, at the age of 5, I was called a nigger by a little white boy. At the time, it hurt me. It really upset me. Years later, we spoke again. Like I said, I swore I'm never going to be friends with him again. But then in secondary school, we started talking, and I spoke about that incident because I remembered it. And he didn't. It was just something he said. He just didn't even know what he was saying at the time. And so it's that, the up and down, I'm really angry, and then there's the innocence and the awareness of that. Yeah.
When I heard what happened in the United States, it took me 3 days of being so angry, as you say. Like, I, in my mind, in my head, I could have tortured and killed that policeman in so many more brutal ways. And I thought that would be justice. I thought that would be a good thing to do. I thought I would be in my absolute right to do that. And then I woke up 3 days later and I found compassion for that man, which completely surprised me. And I just couldn't understand that. And I realized that I wasn't condoning what he did. I was understanding that we're all human beings, that a human being has to be thinking they're doing the right thing, that they are serving others, doing that, to go and do such atrocity, that something has taken away that compassion in them, and that, or they're not seeing with that humanity at that moment, in that moment, thinking that this is like what we want to do with the coronavirus. We just want to exterminate it. We just want it out of our lives. We just want it because we see that it could theoretically get rid of humanity. But when I saw that, I was honestly completely surprised. I didn't know I have that in me. And thank God for this understanding, as we say. Because that means I won't take it on a policeman whenever I see a policeman. And I hope other people can do that as other policemen, like in Santa Cruz, I think it was the first policeman that actually went down on a knee on the manifestation. manifestation, and to say, I am with you, and other people can just now open their eyes and maybe we can all start seeing things differently.
Absolutely, Carolina. You're a better woman than me at the moment, because I have not got to the level of compassion, and I say that quite honestly, and I know I can understand that my feelings are coming from my thinking that I believe to be true moment by moment, and I see it. It doesn't mean I'm going to change it. It just means I recognise it. And I don't know if compassion is the word that I would ever use in that. That's just me, and I'm being completely open and honest. But I also see where it's coming from. I know that love is there. I know he's the same as me. But right now, that's up here. I know it theoretically. It's not here. And I'm okay with that. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I'm being completely honest with myself with that as well.
I love the fact there that you said at the moment. At the moment, it's there, because as you said, it took 3 days. For me, it's. I just love the way you said at the moment it's here, but not here. And yeah, it just, it's amazing that we can go through that. We can go through having these thoughts of, oh, I'm going to kill someone, or I want to kill someone. And then the next thing we have is love and compassion.
And I'm not a better woman than you. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Just put me every week with us, trying to have your compassion and your understanding. I don't know if I would on that phone. And anyway, I'm still trying to forgive my dad for so many things, and it's my dad. But again, seeing that I could see that for that man that I don't know helped me have hope that I will see, hopefully, my dad in a different light. But you can't forgive as a doing. You can't just go and okay, today I'm going to sit down until like they used to do when children, like you sit on that step until you forgive your brother. It just doesn't work like that.
I'd still be on that step.
Well, you have good reasons.
Yeah.
No,
but I think that's what I love about this understanding, is that we can feel however we want to feel. It's just that we understand and know where it's coming from. I know that it's a story that I'm making up in the moment. I know that there are thoughts that I'm believing to be true in the moment, and that's my experience. And that's why I'm saying I'm okay with it, and I know it will change as well. That's the thing, it will change.
Yeah.
So Jill is saying on the comments that this used to happen in South Africa in the days of the apartheid. And I wonder if would you like to, I can't believe the time, oh my God.
It's flown.
So I think we should definitely then open it for questions. And I don't know if you're rushed for time, Janet.
No, I'm good.
Okay.
I've put the time aside.
So,
today,
brilliant. So if you want to ask a question, now we're going to make it available that you can unmute yourself or just write it on the comments and we can read it for you. If you don't want to be on camera, then don't worry, because the last version of this, we edit people's faces and names, so we are completely apart. Not you, Janet. You're not. You're on spot. So So, but so feel safe that it's not going to go public. So you can ask any questions you want.
May I ask something?
Yes, of course, Savia. Hello.
Hi, Caroline. Is it Carolina?
Carolina,
Sorry,
yes.
Janet, hi. You're looking
Hello, darling.
looking gorgeous.
Oh, thank you.
When I saw you were on, I said to my husband and daughter, you both have to disappear. I don't care where you go, what virus, I don't care if the coffee's here, you both have to. I want the living room to myself.
Oh, how are you?
I'm okay, but I can't find the charger and it's on low battery, hence the reason I've taken the video off. Okay, I have a question. Actually, listening to you, it occurred to me. I wasn't aware that I was feeling it. And, I realized that there's a lot of judgment going on for myself in regards to my appearance now. As you know, I used to be very slim and so on. And then I don't know what's happened in the last 2 years. In my eyes, I've put on weight and I don't feel good about myself. And listen, it's listening to you. What's coming to me is, what am I? Who am I? Am I this extra weight? And again, intellectually, I know I'm not. But I'm not feeling it. I'm not living it. I'm not loving myself as I am right now. I don't know what my question is, but I just wanted to say that's what's come up from me listening to you.
Thanks, Savia. I mean, like you said, I know you. I say I know you. And even...
we haven't seen each other for about over 5 years.
Yeah, in a long time.
Yeah.
But even without seeing you, you are still the same beautiful person. I know. And I know that to be true. Because I feel it. And as you said, it's the thing is, it's like if you don't accept you for who you are now, then what are you going to do? You can't be anybody else. And there isn't anything else that can be done. And even if you did, would you be happy with a change to the external? Because that's what it is. It's the external. It's what you expect to see, as opposed to the wonderful mother. You still there?
What can I mean, it's so true what you said. If I don't accept it, what else can I do? And again, I could lose weight. I know if I put my mind to it. I've been slim my whole life. I could lose it. But would that really make me any different?
It's that recognizing and knowing the true you, the real you. Knowing that, like you said, the body can change if you want it to change. But in accepting and knowing yourself for who you are, what you are, you're more than your body. We all are we are, spiritual beings having a human experience. And even right now, I suppose with a lot of us being locked down, I know that I've been locked down for weeks, eating everything, giving myself permission to eat whatever I wanted to eat, looking at the fat on my belly having a life of its own, dancing to its own tune, and looking at myself and saying, you know what? This is me. There isn't anybody else I could be or would want to be. And it's even staring and looking at myself and continuing to look at myself, and he says, this is me. And accepting that this is me. This is the physical me. And I can love it. I can hate it. I can ignore it. But it doesn't go away because it's still me. And like you said, over the last few weeks, I've had to accept a new, different body, how this looks physically. Kind of giving myself permission to have a few more packets of crisps because I can't do any better. But it's remembering, it's the thoughts that we believe to be true moment by moment, and so there are things that I can hold on to lightly. I can look at these thoughts and look at myself and believe the story I'm making up about my body. Or I can look at my body and think, wow, that's amazing. That took years worth of work to make that body. So yes, and again, as I said earlier, the universe doesn't make mistakes. We turn up as we are, perfectly in our imperfection.
Thank you. And I'm coming to Birmingham in a couple of weeks, so once this is over, I'd love to connect.
It'd be lovely. It'd be lovely to see you, so it really would.
Yes. Thank you.
You're welcome, darling.
Thank you so much, Sabia. Thank you so much. I'm from Argentina, and in Spanish, Sabia means the wise one.
Yes, it means that in Arabic as well.
It is as well.
Wow.
There you go.
That's incredible.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah. I struggle with overweight my whole life. I was, Janet was called nigger. I was called fatty. I had some skinny white guy just running around when I was little. My whole life, I was always called fatty, and I always thought that came first. Like if I managed to lose weight, then I would be loved, and if I managed to lose weight, then I will be, I will fit in. Especially, I will fit in the clothes that were in the rails of the other shops. And at some point, my stepmom died of a heart attack about 10 years ago. And then I went with my dad to see the doctor who saw her at the last minute. And he didn't know she wasn't my birth mom. So he looked at me and he went, and you know what? If you don't start going on a diet, you're going to die like your mum.
Oh gosh.
And I thought, what, how insensitive, how rude, and that was in Argentina. Then I came back and that was still, just thought like, how? And I went to get a piece of cake, I remember, chocolate cake, which is my favorite. I couldn't live without chocolate in the house. And as I cut that piece of cake, I thought, another day less with my daughter and my husband. I was married at that time. So I can choose. I have an insight. It wasn't, maybe he didn't have the best way of waking me up to that. Something in me saw something that wasn't about the way I looked. It was about my health. It was me making a decision. It wasn't the outside making a decision for me. And I started changing naturally things that I was doing, but not because somebody told me, not because I was thinking, when I look like that, then I will. And then during the years, I realized what a horrible critic I have been of myself. I wouldn't ever, Savia, tell anybody the things I have been telling myself. And you name it, fatty, you name it, lazy, you name it, you are not good enough, you're always letting yourself down, you're always letting people down. I always had a good idea of how that was helpful to treat myself like that. I will never treat anybody like that. And when I saw how cruel I was to myself, something started changing for me. And I hope, sorry to take this time, but I hope that is helpful. And please stay in touch if we can somehow be of help. But you know, Savia, you are the wise one.
Thank you, Carolina. Thank you for sharing that. It's been very inspiring. And yes, I needed to hear that because I realized just very recently, I think this has been coming up for me in the last 24 hours or so, and then especially hearing Janet speak, that, oh my gosh, I've been having all these judgments about myself and feeling like I can't go out and meet my family and friends because they won't know who I am anymore because I have always lived up to this certain image that I had created for myself, and I think I really lost myself thinking that was who I really was. And I'm just, waking up to, gosh, that's not who I really am, what I really am. Thank you.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions anybody would like to ask?
Let's see.
And if not, that's fine as well. It's completely fine too.
We actually have, if we don't have any more questions from anybody else, let's see. I actually have I have some questions, but there's one in particular that I wanted to. So we have some questions that people sent, and because they couldn't be here. So if there's no other questions there, I will just ask this one. So it says, I am a mixed race. My mum was white and my dad black. I was born out of wedlock and given up for adoption. My mum's family felt this will bring shame to them. After many years, I was adopted by a white couple with 2 sons. I never felt I fit in. As a grown adult, I looked forward to meeting my birth parents. I found my mom's family felt I was too dark-skinned. my father's family felt I was too white. I never managed to find my own identity. My adopted mother committed suicide, and I live with chronic depression. So, how can I find my true identity?
Wow.
Wow.
I suppose what I'm hearing from what you've just said, and I suppose she's given all of the hurt and the pain aspects of her life, and it's to see if there is any, if she's experienced any moments of love, of levity. Because, and I suppose this thing when we come with what we think a problem is, what we think an issue is, and everything that's fallen away, everything that's supposed to be an anchor, everything that's supposed to contribute to who we are falls away. Those things that we're supposed to trust, those things that we're supposed to hold on to fall away. What's left? I was saying to Wayne before, when I got to a point where I could see through the illusion of Janet, I could see my true identity, and it was like, oh my gosh, where's my foundation? Everything that I believe to be true is gone. What's the foundation? And I had to turn to what came to me. All that's left is truth. All that's left is infinite intelligence. All that's left is spirit. That was it. That's all I had. And I know that to be constant, and I know that to be true. So how would she start? I don't know, without having a conversation. To be honest, I wouldn't. There's no, like you said, there isn't a cookie cutter. How would you do this? I don't have a strategy or a plan, because it's to meet that person where they are. I know she's, I suppose, in her depression, in her sadness, in her lostness. It's to find. Part of me wanted to say joy. It's to find that truth that's within her, and it's there. Maybe she's not found it or looked at it because everything else seems to overshadow. But to have the opportunity to be in the moment without the experiences that have been there, without the feelings that have been attached to the experiences, to actually be present, to allow and feel the tears and the pain to flow out. And then what's left once that has gone? And we start from there. If you have her name, just connect her with me. I've got no problem speaking with her at all. That's all.
We will. That's so beautiful.
I think for me, every time we have a conversation, I'm sat there afterwards reflecting. Because for me, what you bring is such a depth and such a true nature of this understanding and how you see it and how it is. And you always point people back home. And I think that's what's really impacted me today. You know, you talk about the things with, you know, your past and, you know, things going on at the moment. And what I'm seeing is you had problems with race, or issues with race, shall we say, and I had the disability issues. And in my head, while I'm saying this to you now, I'm thinking, and it's not a competition, but I'm thinking, well, who had the shorter straw? And I can tell you now that from listening to you today, I had it much easier having a disability, and it's completely opened my eyes hearing you speak today. My disability was nothing, and it is nothing compared to what black people go through these days. And not even black people, but people that are struggling.
Thank you, Wayne. And for me, I appreciate the platform to be open, to speak my truth as I've seen it, as I've experienced it, and to be open and honest with it, to say that I'm not okay with everything, but to also know I know where that's coming from, and to share that, so that you can hear the experience, and also, like I said, to ask the questions without fear of having your head bitten off, or how can you not know that? Because I know that there's a lot of tension and emotion around at the moment, and I've always said that I believe my purpose is to educate, equip and empower, and I suppose I had to wait till I was in a place that I could be that again. Yeah. And so the timing of this is absolutely perfect.
Oh my gosh, you're so amazing. We love you so much. Susie saying, beautiful response, Janet. Thank you so much for this space. And Jen and Dave and your family in the north, well, around where you are really, they had to go, so they say sorry because obviously they had a group they had to go and talk to. I don't know if there are any more questions. There is such a beautiful feeling, and you are.
I think Birdie wants to say something.
Birdie wants to say something. Birdie, do you want to say something? There she goes. Hi, Birdie.
Lovely to see you again and to hear you. It's beautiful as always.
So lovely to see you too. It really is.
Thank you. I'm just saying, I've got 2 little black grandchildren. I love them to bits. They're fabulous. So, so I'm hoping, like everyone, that everything's going to improve for them too.
Yes. And like he says, I hope, and there will be changes, because, you know, after the Stephen Lawrence inquiry in the UK, after the Stephen Lawrence inquiry, and things do change. Just take a little bit of time. So, yeah, fabulous.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Birdie. So I guess, Janet, you have been so incredibly.
Susie, I think Susie had it.
Susie?
Oh,
yeah, Susie.
Always the last minute. No, it wasn't a question. It just keeps on coming up in my head. So, just something someone said at the conference, over the 3P conference over the last few days. Somebody just pointed out that if we don't judge ourselves, then we're free. If we don't judge ourselves, then we're free. And it just feels very pertinent to what we've all been talking about. Whatever our issue is, you know, it could be judgment from everywhere, but if we don't judge ourselves within that, then we are free.
It's so true. I remember listening to Sydney Banks stuff, and he's saying that the only issue there ever is insecurity. I remember him saying that. And as you said, if we didn't feel, so if we didn't see ourselves as less than, as you said, if we didn't judge ourselves, then you would experience love, and from that place of love, you wouldn't hurt another. You wouldn't, because you're completely content and whole in who and what you truly are. Thank you, Susie.
Thank you. Amazing call. Amazing call. Really gorgeous.
Thank you. JanetRhynie.com.
Well, I would love to use the opportunity also, now that Susie was saying something, to also say that next week, Susie Spens is our guest speaker. So, Susie, it's going to be on Wednesday, so we're changing the day so other people are able to come to the call as well at 6 o'clock. So that's Wednesday the 17th, I think, of June. And Susie, if I could choose a sister in this world, it would be Susie. And well, I've chosen her anyway, if she likes it or not. But
You haven't got a choice.
she doesn't have a choice. She's one of the new voices around in the principles. We are as we are. We trained together with Susie at Clarity and Clarity Mentoring. We were co-mentors. She's also a wonderful homeopath. She's the homeopath of the whole family right now. She really also has helped change our lives. She's, she's absolutely wonderful. She's got a voice that when Susie speaks, I think everything calms down. That's my feeling. Like, she's this beautiful soul, and I couldn't be more happy to also be able to welcome new voices, because it's important that we start making our first steps and sharing this. And so from one of the first ones in this country to talk about the principles, Janet, that you've been absolutely amazing. Thank you so much. So much.
Thank you.
Thank you both.
Thank you for your time. And we'll see you and we'll see Susie next time. And thank you all for coming today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We love you.